What is going on, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Huddle Within podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in to another episode today. And, if it's your first time jumping in, do subscribe wherever you do get your podcasts. But today, I normally say Spotify, other platforms, but it'd be great if you could leave a subscription on YouTube, only because I'm about 3 off from hitting triple digits and 100 subs. And that would mean the world to me if you guys can jump on the YouTube and subscribe. I put the episodes out on there as well. You've got the full video format of me there too. Whereas other platforms, obviously Spotify now does video, but others don't. So if you are listening in normally on a platform that doesn't serve video, I have video as well. So that's a good opportunity for you to jump onto YouTube and obviously suss the video out as well. So today we're going to be obviously doing a bit of sporting news for this week. There isn't too much to go on. I think I'll start with Champions League for this week and a bit of FA Cup stuff. We obviously saw Man City dismantle Liverpool 4-0. And, we're going to preview Liverpool's game against PSG. The first tie of the leg is away from home. So Liverpool have to travel to Paris after coming off an international break, after coming off a 4-0 loss to Man City in an FA Cup. This is another big blow for them. This is their last chance to win a trophy. And, they're going in as red-hot underdogs. And, Liverpool fans are not optimistic from the conversations I've had. But I feel like they could get a result here and, potentially give them an opportunity to take out the leg at Anfield. Because, it's really hard to beat Liverpool at Anfield. But look, we don't know what's going to happen. PSG are obviously a well-oiled machine. They're elite. They have actually had the French Federation reschedule a league match for them just so they could prepare better for this Champions League tie. So that's already something that's a bit controversial, and I think Liverpool fans aren't too happy about. But Liverpool can't make excuses. They've had the international break. They've only played one match where they got destroyed. And I think this is the last call for Arne Slot. If he doesn't get a victory here, he's pretty much halfway out the door. I think Liverpool aren't a club that will sack a manager mid or during the season. I think it's definitely something that will happen after the season. So he'll probably ride it out to the end. But I think, it's time for probably Arne Slot to go. A lot of Liverpool fans are obviously not happy with how he's been obviously performing and how the team's performing. So it does fall on the manager. It's a lot easier to get rid of Arne Slot when you've signed that many players as opposed to, established players under Klopp that have won the league. And obviously these new players who are just getting into Liverpool at the start, you can't really just get rid of them after one season. So I think getting rid of Slot for them makes the most sense. But, he could come around, defeat PSG and potentially, make a deep run in the Champions League. They'll have to verse the winner of Bayern or Real Madrid. Bayern are currently 2-1 up. And, on the scheme of things, it looked good because obviously they versed Real Madrid away from home at the Bernabeu. But given the context of the situation, they had a really good chance to stay 2-0 up and have a 2-goal tie. And now that that Mbappe and Real Madrid had some consolation to get a goal back, this is still in the balance. This is very much still in the balance. Real Madrid are still an elite club, but I think Bayern Munich are really strong at the moment. And they were my sort of pre-Champions League group stage area predictor to win it. And I'm going to stick with it. I think Bayern Munich are the strongest team currently right now in the Champions League. So for that alone, I think Bayern will take out the second leg. But again, you can't be too sure. But Liverpool, PSG, whoever wins that will take on Bayern and Real Madrid. Again, I think Liverpool have the opportunity to cause an upset. PSG, again, they're unbelievable, but, there's a lot of adversity to Liverpool, and this is a good character sort of test for them to see if they can actually get a victory. And then you've also got Arsenal taking on Sporting. Gyökeres goes back home, doesn't score, but Havertz does in the 90th minute with only 2 minutes of added time, and Arsenal continue to have their reputation being 1-0 victors. But this time not from a set piece. It was actually from open play. From Gabby Martinelli's great run and ball into the box to get Havertz set up for that goal. It was a good first touch and then got on his left foot, opened his body up nicely there. Martinelli is looking to be a really strong piece off the bench. I think he's just honing into that role really well. And, Declan Rice being back in there with William Saliba definitely steadied the ship there after obviously their upset loss to Southampton, losing an opportunity to play in the FA Cup. I'm sure they're not going to be too upset about it. There was an opportunity to potentially win a treble, but I think their priority, if you ask any Arsenal fan, is to win the league. But then after this match, you have to sort of question whether they can still actually potentially win the double. Like, they've never won a Champions League before. They'd be really excited to win that. Obviously, getting the monkey off the back, winning a Premier League is what you want. But at the same time, Champions League is very much in the open. And, they take a 1-0 lead to the Emirates, and I suppose that they're going to get through as well. And they have a more favourable fixture. You'd much rather verse Barcelona or Atletico Madrid as opposed to Real Madrid or Bayern Munich. I know Barcelona are elite, but when it comes to Champions League football, I feel like Real Madrid, are very, notorious for winning multiple. They've won the most, obviously, out of all clubs. So that game's going to be tough to predict. I suspect Barca wins this one, especially the first leg. I think the problem is that if Atletico had an opportunity to play at their home first, they might have had a better chance. But the fact that the first game's at the Camp Nou, I feel like Barca's going to win about 3-1 and just, put this game to bed. And, they're flying in the league, so why not try to go for Champions League as well? They got one of the best players who's only 19, 18 years old in the competition at the moment, and that is Lamine Yamal. So, yeah, I think Barca will edge out. And then obviously we've got the Premier League back this week, which I'm excited about because United is obviously finally going to be playing games. It feels like it's been so long since I watched the United team go. England have confirmed, well, after Arsenal's win, we basically confirmed the fact that the Champions League will have 5 teams from England. So if you finish 5th, you're guaranteed Champions League, and that's great news for United because we're currently sitting at 3rd with about 7 games left, and I think we'll probably lock in Champions League very soon, which is great for us, and I think something that needs to happen for a club like Manchester United. Just wanted to take a moment to thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Huddle Within podcast. If you do enjoy episodes like this, or this episode specifically, be sure to leave a comment and a 5-star review wherever you do get your podcasts. It'd be also great if you could like and subscribe wherever you do get your podcasts, so we can continue to show this out to people that see sports exactly the way that you do. But without further ado, let's get straight back into it. Moving on to AFL, where we had round 4 just conclude. Obviously, Collingwood losing to Brisbane, getting smacked up there. Not happy about it and not confident going into the Freo game. We do get Pendlebury back and we do get Dacos, and we got a debut player coming in this week, Anson. So I'm excited for him because he looks really good in VFL. But otherwise, Collingwood not looking very good, and it just shows that without our experienced heads, we really struggle. And we got smacked up by the Lions, who are back on premiership form. We've got North Melbourne as well, defeating Carlton by 10 points. Carlton were up again by 20, and they just choke. I love it when Carlton are just shit. And it's just another dampener on their shit season already. They are struggling big time. They're definitely going to be a bottom 4 side, and I love every single moment of it. North Melbourne flying. If they would have bet West Coast, they could be 4-0. So I'm a bit shattered that that isn't the case. But they're off to a flying start. 3-1 is really good for them. And then you had Adelaide and Freo was 76-78. Freo edging out there, and they look really solid. Riley O'Brien had a brain fart, pretty much cost them the game by that kick. Could have easily had an entry into the 50. Miskicks it. Freo turns around, scores a goal, and they need to finish top 4 because if they do, they have a better chance of making a deep run to the grand final, given that they'll have that home ground advantage, which is so important for WA. I think geographically speaking, 3-hour travels, 5-hour travels to Brisbane is very hard for them. So I think they definitely need to get top 4 position locked. And they're, on track to do it. They've been performing really well, and I'll get to my tipping next, but we've got them, and I think we're going to be in big trouble against them. We had Richmond and Port Adelaide. Richmond could be worse than the the Dons. Like they lost here by 42 points. Like they got smacked. And Port Adelaide aren't a really good team. So that Dreamtime game's gonna suck. That's gonna be one of the worst quality games of footy I think we'll see this year because Richmond are definitely no good. And then a team that is no good, that we're familiar with not being good, that we thought would be better, had a big reality check because they got smacked up by Sydney by over 100 points, 128 points to be exact. And, Sydney, well-oiled machine. And I think West Coast were just performing above their pay grade. And how good's James Jordan? He locked up Harley Reid, sorry. He locked him up big time. So, James Jordan, I'd be worried if he's on Dacos. He's a very good tagger at the moment and he's proven it. So Sydney are looking really, really strong. I just don't trust them when it comes to finals because every time they get to the granny, they choke. They just can't seem to perform at the MCG. So I can't really give them much credit yet. And, they've put away a lot of good teams, but they also caught a lot of good teams in wrong periods. Like they lost to Hawks. They smacked up Carlton. They smacked up Brisbane, who didn't have their full squad. And they obviously beat West Coast as well. But I think they have a big challenge coming up this week where I do expect them to win, but it'll be a big test. And then the upset of the round was definitely Melbourne defeating Gold Coast by 20. How good is Cosy Pickett? He's unbelievable. What a player. And so is Max Gawn. Getting rid of their bad eggs has just proven to be really good. And, Melbourne's new coach is a lead as well. So, look, I think Gold Coast will be fine. That is a big loss for them in terms of sort of their confidence, but I think they'll bounce back because, they're a well-oiled machine too. I think Melbourne were just red hot, and it's really hard to predict this Melbourne team because you thought they were going to be terrible, but it doesn't look like it's going to be the case. They're looking really fun. And I forgot to mention that Jack Steele is just really enjoying his footy, and he's back to sort of the Jack Steele of old when he was first at St Kilda before he sort of had that pressure of being the captain and sort of struggled and got his captaincy stripped and whatnot and just lost confidence in all his footy. Now it looks like it's all the way up for him. And how good is Latrell Pickett? He's making an early case to be rising star for the year, but I think that Dersman's got them in the bag. But still, it's great to see Latrell Pickett going out there and balling out with his cousin because he's elite too. And then we had the Doggies take on Essendon. Now, a lot of people are obviously giving Essendon the morale victory here, but let's be honest. Bulldogs were definitely playing in second gear. Like they didn't get out of second gear the whole game. Like the first quarter and half, they dominated by 50. And, that you don't need to actually over try in these games. Like sometimes it's just getting through the game unscathed, which unfortunately they couldn't when they had English and Richards out. But just being able to manage the game, understand the situation, and not need to go full pelt, I think was smart. Essendon put a fight. They won the second half. They would be proud of that. But honestly, it still doesn't mean nothing. I still think Essendon are really, really bad. And then finally, I was at the game, and let me tell you, the atmosphere at this game was incredible. Most definitely game of the year so far. It was a unbelievable game to be a part of and watch, and especially sitting there as a neutral. I was nervous. It was like 4 minutes to go. I was like, who the hell is going to win this one? Even with 1 minute and 30 to go being a draw, I thought, am I going to be able to see a draw for the first time? But then you had the counter-attack play where, look, Ollie Dempsey makes his run all the way to the goal square, which is something that he always tends to do. But what happened there was that it let the whole sort of right side, if you're talking from coming from Hawks direction, the whole right side of the pitch or the field open. That allowed Newcombe to come in, have all that space to run and enter the ball into the 50. You had a bit of a scuffle there, and that led to Jack Gunston hitting the post with about 14 seconds to go. And the way people were celebrating was as if he won the game and scored a goal. So that was hectic as well. And I think it was a good thing that it ended up being a point because it takes 14 seconds to get up to the other pitch. It doesn't. I'm sorry. It doesn't take 14 seconds. It's actually really hard to do. So getting that point was so valuable, and it gave Hawks a victory who I think, they had 13-14. That was their scoring shots. And if you count that up together, that's 27 as opposed to Geelong's 21. That means that they did deserve it. Geelong hit 14-7, were much more clinical and accurate. But Hawks definitely, I think, deserved it. And, I think the Cats had the favourable umpiring calls, and that was the only stat they won. So I wasn't happy because I tipped Geelong, but at the same time, I think the better team won on the day. And, that pretty much wrapped up round 4. And we got into Gather Round, which is going to be really exciting. The first game of Gather Round kicks off tomorrow. For those that don't know what Gather Round is, all the matches are in South Australia. You have matches in every single sort of day and most games in Adelaide Oval, some in Norwood and some at the Barossa Valley as well. So be really excited for that. It's a great time. It's a great sort of week for people of South Australia being able to watch a lot of their teams play. So the first match, we've got Adelaide and Carlton to open up. So obviously Adelaide home team opening up this campaign. Look, I think Adelaide wins this one, hands down. I don't think it's going to be a contest. I think Adelaide bounce back. They've lost 3 in a row, and they need to get a victory here. So I think they do get the victory here for about 4 goals they win. I think Carlton won't keep it necessarily close, but they won't get smacked either. I think it'll be between 20 and 30 points. And then you've got Collingwood and Freo. I expect Freo to kick us out by 5 goals, I think we're in big trouble. Like I said, I think Freo are a much better side than us, and I think they're going to beat us. And, hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully we can cause an upset, and it might make me feel a little bit confident about our season. But I think this is where we're going to get another big reality check that there's a lot of teams that are just far better than us at the moment. And then you have North taking on Brisbane. Brisbane wins this one. I think they smack them up. I think North Melbourne also get a bit of a reality check. They've had a really easy and favorable run so far, and this is going to be their first big challenge of the year, and it's coming up against a back-to-back premier, so I don't see Brisbane winning this one. And then you've got Essendon and Melbourne. This is where I expect Melbourne to win. I think Essendon obviously are lacking big time, and they're not a good side. I don't really see them winning a game this season, yet alone a chance against Melbourne. Maybe they could pick West Coast after that smacking, but otherwise give me Melbourne on this one. Sydney and Gold Coast. This one's really hard to sort of predict. I'm going to go with Gold Coast. I think they bounce back, and I think the fact that Sydney are not playing in Sydney gives Gold Coast a bit of a better opportunity to win this. So I'm going to go with Gold Coast. And, I'm not confident with that, but I think that Gold Coast have an opportunity to bounce back here and make up for their terrible game against Melbourne. And then you've got the Hawks and Doggies, which is probably the game of the round, arguably with this game, but obviously that being night prime time, it's more favourable to watch. I'm going to go with Hawthorn on this one. I think the Bulldogs are a better side, but I think Richards and English and Libbar being injured is going to affect them big time in that midfield. So I'm going to go with Hawthorn on this one, and I think it's going to be a really, really close game. I don't see the Bulldogs getting smacked, and you know what? If they win, I wouldn't be surprised either, but I'm going to go for Hawthorn on this one. And then you've got Geelong and West Coast. Geelong is going to smack West Coast, I think, by 60 plus. And then you've got GWS Richmond. I also expect GWS to win. I think that's probably the worst game of the round. I think it's going to be a really, really ugly game. And finally, Port Adelaide and St Kilda. Now, I think I'm going to go with St Kilda on this one. I think they need to win this game. I think it's very important for them. And, they need to bounce back. So I think St Kilda will get the victory. Port Adelaide have all the confidence going in. They're the home side. But I think that St Kilda needs to really put teams like this away if they are going to be taken seriously this season. And especially given that we always talk about it, that big-ass war chest, they have to win here. They just have to. They just have to. So that pretty much wraps up the footy review and sort of preview based on round 4 and gather around round 5, which I'm really excited to obviously see as well. Just wanted to take a moment to thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Huddle Within podcast. If you do enjoy episodes like this, or this episode specifically, be sure to leave a comment and a 5-star review wherever you do get your podcasts. It'd be also great if you could like and subscribe wherever you do get your podcasts, so we can continue to show this out to people that see sports exactly the way that you do. But without further ado, let's get straight back into it. Just some few WrestleMania updates. Finn Balor has been announced as the Demon. Pat McAfee kicked Randy Orton in the balls. That was quite disappointing. I expected that to be someone a bit more significant that was on the other side of the phone as opposed to Randy Orton. But, Pat McAfee's the heel. It sort of makes sense given that ESPN have the rights to all the PLEs. So they wanted to get one of their own employees to be a main person at WrestleMania. They're obviously really also trying to get this very star-studded with celebrities because you've got Speed into this match. I would have thought Jelly Roll had a potential to participate at WrestleMania. Don't think they have room for him. I think Kit Wilson would have been nice to be shown there. You've obviously got R-Truth as well. That is probably not going to be featured with Damian Priest, which is sad. I don't know if they all get on the card. I think the card is pretty much shaping up, to be honest. I don't think there's any more spots left. I could be wrong. That would be one. Kit Wilson and Danhausen being on there could be another. We're still waiting for Asuka and Io Sky to be confirmed. I'm pretty sure that is going to happen. But the problem is that apparently Nikki Bella could be ruled out for WrestleMania. So that might mean that Kairi Sane and Asuka could get on the card for the titles. And can they really rob Io Sky of a WrestleMania moment? Like, seriously? She won the title last year and you're telling me she's not going to be on the card? That would be crazy. That would be shocking. And what's going on with Carmelo Hayes? Is he going to get on the card? Is he going to be a last ditch in? We have to find out on SmackDown because a lot of those answers haven't been, provided. But what has been provided is that Finn Balor is going to be the demon, and Rey Mysterio has been injected into the ladder match to make it a 6-man, which is awesome. It's great to see Rey Mysterio in there. And we had a crazy promo from CM Punk. I suggest you go watch it because it was incredible. It reminded me of the pipe bomb back in 2011 or 2010, whenever it was, where he was just dropping bombs on everyone and had his mic cut. It was against John Cena. It was quite good. But Roman Reigns, man, he's copying it from all angles. But not only him, Vince McMahon copped a stray. The Rock copped a stray, calling him was a Hollywood superstar. Pat McAfee got called Pat McAfee for, supporting Donald Trump there. So that was quite crazy. Obviously, at the back of him turning heel has created a bit of beef between them. He also called out the CEO of TKO by telling him to drop down the ticket prices, which was quite crazy too. Like telling your own boss, mate, the tickets are too expensive. Fucking drop them. It is quite amazing. And you know what? CM Punk's inspiring when it comes to his promos because he's by far one of the best on the mic, mate. He is elite on the mic. He was so good. That promo was elite. I suggest you go check that out. And you know what? I'm going to give a quick shout out, not just to CM Punk, but to my boy, and I did send him to it before, Danhausen has been bloody hilarious. When he got in, I was like, man, what the frick are WWE doing hyping this man up? He has been incredible backstage. I am loving every single moment I see Danhausen on the screen. And you know what? Keep it coming. Hopefully he can get on the card. If not, he's going to have a big influence backstage. I'm still waiting for R-Truth and Danhausen to have their sort of interaction backstage. It could happen on SmackDown. I'd be very keen to see that. Like, they've obviously had an interaction in terms of Danhausen tagging in for R-Truth and also R-Truth calling Danhausen Asuka, but we haven't seen them actually talk to each other. I think that would break the internet seriously. But you know what? We're a week away from WrestleMania, and next week will be a special episode because I will be reviewing and previewing WrestleMania next week. It will be a very WrestleMania heavy show. I promise that, if you like wrestling, you'll enjoy the content. And if you don't, it might get you keen for it because, WrestleMania is the one thing that I think everyone has a slight interest to. Maybe you don't like wrestling, but you'll hear something about it. And, Speed's going to be fighting. That's obviously going to bring a lot of, casual viewers and people that are big fans of Speed to boost that audience. So, I'm keen for it. I think a few of the storylines have been rushed, but nevertheless, WrestleMania is WrestleMania. It's going to be 2 nights. It's going to be awesome. And, I'm going to be keen to sort of break that down next week. But yeah, it's been another episode of the Huddle Within podcast. No NBA updates. We're finishing off the season as well. Next week will be very busy because, the season will be finished. I'm probably going to get in potentially Kenny and Nath. They don't know about this yet until they listen to this, to break down the over and unders that we did at the start of the season and, pretty much preview the playoffs as well. So look out for that. But otherwise, yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Again, if you did enjoy the content, subscribe. But please, if you can, on YouTube would be awesome. I'm trying to hit that 100 subscribers. That would help big time. And obviously, we can get this out to as many people as possible. But again, it's been your boy Daniel, and I'll catch you guys next week. Cheers. So that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Huddle Within podcast. I appreciate you for tuning in and being part of this community where we go beyond the game and into what really matters. If this episode resonated with you, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who sees sports just the way that we do. And hey, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on my social medias, which will be linked below. Send in your thoughts and even be part of a future episode. Until next time, keep that passion alive, stay in the huddle, and remember, it's always deeper than the game. Cheers.